Taylor Hayes's heart pounded as she sat in her car, staring at the darkened skyline of Los Angeles. The clue she had discovered, a cryptic message, a whispered confession from an unexpected source, had changed everything. Luna was still alive. After months of believing Luna was dead, Taylor realized the whole truth had been hidden from her. Her emotions roared inside her, betrayal, grief, fear, and a desperate need to protect. She put the car in drive and returned to LA. With one goal: confront the secret, expose the lies, and stop the damage before it could spread further. Inside the Spencer mansion, Electra Forrester paced in the great room, her pulse throbbing, her eyes blazing. Luna Nozawa had emerged like a specter from the past, taunting everything Electra held dear. Electra's blood boiled whenever Luna spoke of pregnancy, of intimacy with Will, of secrets buried in darkness. Tonight, Electra swore she would not be cowed. She would not allow Luna to tear them apart. Will Spencer hovered by a doorway, torn between his impulsive need to protect Electra and his guilty sense that he had played with fire. He had confessed to Electra that Luna and he had slept together. The shock of that admission still echoed in their relationship, fracturing trust, fueling resentment. Will begged Electra to calm down, to listen, but in a manner awash with old grudges, trembling alliances, and simmering tension. Rational appeals held little sway. As Electra confronted Luna in the room, her voice trembled with outrage. "You lied. You manipulated. How dare you pretend to carry my child's father?" Luna, eyes cold but defiant, stood her ground. "I am not pretending. I don't lie about a life growing inside me." Will tried to step between them, to calm Electra, but the magnetic pull between Electra's fury and Luna's obstinate grace drew him in. Electra's temper snapped. She swung her fist. The punch landed square on Luna's jaw. Luna staggered, her face white, and collapsed backward. The room went dead silent. In an instant, dynamics shifted. Luna crumpled on the floor, Electra rearing back in shock. Will and others rushing forward to separate the two. Blood pounded in Taylor's ears as she pulled into the driveway. Timing unpredictable, but fate aligning. She stepped off her car, the night air thick with tension. Inside, she would enter a battlefield not of her own making, but of lies, betrayals, and consequences that might consume every one of them. The moment Taylor crossed the threshold, voices echoed through corridors. She heard Will's anguished shout, Electra's hissing fury, then a soft gasp from Luna. Taylor hurried to the scene. She saw Luna lying on the floor, Electra frozen in mid-step. Will knelt by Luna. The room swayed, all eyes turned toward Taylor. A hush fell. Taylor's shock cracked into rage as she processed the collision. "Stop this," Taylor bellowed. Her voice, calm but authoritative, cut through the chaos. "Everyone, freeze, someone call an ambulance." She crouched beside Luna, gently lifting her head. She looked Electra in the eye. "You attacked her. This is assault." The word hung heavy. Electra's face twisted, panic and defiance mingled. Will stared, guilt etched deep in his eyes. Luna moaned, clutching her face, unsteady. The legal stakes flashed into view. Electra's punch could be charged as battery. Luna might file a civil suit. The police could be called. Witnesses would be summoned. The fragile alliances would fracture. The families, Spencers, Forresters, Logans, would be forced to stake positions. Taylor realized she might be pulled into a legal war she had not chosen. Forced to defend an innocent or punish a child she loved. Every person in that room would become collateral in the war Luna's return sparked. Taylor rose and turned to Electra. "I don't pretend to know your pain. But violence is not the answer. You'll answer for this." Electra's jaw trembled with guilt, defiance burning behind her eyes. Will stood, supporting Luna, his posture a plea for calm. Luna, wincing, glanced at Taylor. A flicker of triumph, or horror, crossed her face. The ripple was immediate. Katie Logan Spencer, Bill Spencer, Ridge Forrester, Brooke Logan, they would all hear. The lines would be drawn. Taylor, as a psychiatrist, as a mother, as someone forced into this storm, would find herself advising a spouse, consoling a daughter, navigating truth and betrayal. In the days that followed, Electra became patient zero in a legal case she could never have anticipated. Luna, filing charges, demanded a medical exam and a restraining order. She threatened a lawsuit for emotional distress and defamation. Electra's attorney pointed out Luna's previous manipulations, challenged paternity. Will was subpoenaed to testify. Bill Spencer and Katie Logan took opposite sides. Bill defending his son's integrity, Katie siding with Electra's sense of betrayal. Ridge and Brooke stood by Taylor. The courtroom would become a theater for every hidden secret. Meanwhile, Taylor found herself stepping into the breach. She counseled Electra in the eye of the storm. "Don't speak to Luna. Preserve your composure. Prepare for cross-examination." She reached out to Luna, offering to mediate, understanding Luna's trauma if not her methods. Taylor had knowledge of Luna's past that no one else had. She held evidence, memory, withheld dossiers. If anyone could steer the outcome toward peace or expose devastation, it would be Taylor. At the same time, Luna's allies mobilized. Sheila Carter seethed in the shadows, telling Luna she had brought Taylor back into the web. And now watch the fallout. Luna's supporters whispered of conspiracies, hidden surveillance footage, secrets that Elektra and Will didn't even know. The tension mounted outside courtrooms. Tensions flared at public appearances. Social media exploded with speculation. Family dinners turned into accusations. Elektra, behind closed doors, tore through her own conscience. She hated what she had done, but she still believed her pain was justified. Luna, when lucid, alternated between rage and vulnerability, telling her side of the story. She had been erased, denied, silenced, and now she had a right to be heard. Will was caught between them, his own guilt clouding his judgment. Bill Spencer pushed for maximal defense. Katie Logan had to argue for humanity and empathy. Ridge and Brooke whispered counsel in Taylor's ear. She must choose whether to be a healer or a witness, a mother or a shield. In the courtroom, the drama unfolded. Elektra's attorney argued she was provoked, acting in emotional hysteresis. Luna's lawyer demanded full restitution. Will's testimony cracked. He admitted weakness, confusion, guilt, but refused to demonize either woman. Taylor was called to the stand. Under oath, she described what she had reconstructed. Luna's concealment, the intentional manipulation of truths. Elektra's heartbreak, Will's betrayal. Her voice was steady, precise, yet burdened by the weight of all she knew. She refused to be weaponized by either side. She insisted on the truth. Outside the courtroom, the families clashed. Bill confronted Katie. How could she side with Elektra? Katie accused Bill of fathering Will with a legacy of betrayal. Brooke comforted Taylor, worried about the emotional toll. Ridge held Taylor's hand through late nights, fearing she would be drawn deeper into conflict she never wanted. Elektra, quarantined by the legal war, wept in private. Luna sat in a hospital bed one day, recovering, growing fragile, insisting the baby inside her was real, irrefutable. As the trial progressed, revelations emerged. Hidden recordings of Luna's statements, intercepted texts between Luna and Will, prior threats Luna made. Elektra's attack was scrutinized. Surveillance video from the mansion, eyewitness accounts, physical evidence. Each new disclosure rattled alliances. Some sympathetic jurors began to see Luna's pain, others saw Elektra's desperation. Taylor's impartiality was challenged. Opponents accused her of covering for Elektra. Luna's side claimed she bore bias against Luna's past. Taylor's reputation as a therapist and moral anchor hung in balance. In the final act, a jury verdict loomed. Each family prepared for victory or defeat. But in the moments before the judgment, Taylor stood in an empty courtroom, closing her eyes. She had come back to LA, believing she could contain the fallout. Now she understood. There was no author, no guardian. She had to let the process run its course, even if she would get scorched. The verdict, when it came, shocked the city. The jury found Elektra guilty of aggravated assault but mitigated by provocation. Monetary damages awarded to Luna, but reduced. Luna's restraining order was upheld temporarily. But the court found insufficient evidence to confirm paternity. Will's relationship with both women became fodder for tabloid gossip. The legal record became public. Taylor, exhaustively cross-examined, emerged bruised but credible. Her role as mediator was both praised and challenged. In the aftermath, the wounds would not heal easily. Elektra, chastened, had to rebuild trust with Will and defend her name. Luna, emboldened, would pursue the paternity case in civil court, demand DNA testing, reclaim her narrative. The Spencer and Forrester families tore at each other for months. Katie and Bill sparred. Ridge and Brooke warned Taylor to step back. Allies picked sides. The ripple effects extended to business deals, fashion alliances, social standing. Taylor remained at the center, not as a passive observer, but as a force, speaking hard truths, trying to mend broken bridges, holding her ground even as the world tried to drag her into ruin. She had returned to LA, intending to expose a lie. Instead she was engulfed in one. The paths forward for Elektra, Luna, Will, and for Taylor herself, were uncertain. Every relationship strained, every betrayal bared, every identity contested. In the end, only one thing was sure: nothing would ever be the same again. The storm inside the Forrester estate had reached a breaking point. Tensions coiled through the walls like tightly wound threads waiting to snap. At the center of it all stood Ridge Forrester, reaffirming, once again, his love for Brooke Logan. He said it without hesitation, without ambiguity. with that unmistakable gravity that came only after years of leaving, returning, hurting, healing, and still somehow holding on. It's you, Logan, he told her. It's always been you. His voice was steady, but the air between them wasn't. The weight of everything they'd survived still loomed, especially now, as the family splintered under 100 different pressures. Brooke believed him. At least, she wanted to. But believing Ridge had never been the problem. Staying ahead of the cycle, that endless loop of passion, jealousy, missteps, and reunions, was where it all unraveled. The word destiny had been both their promise and their curse. Every time things seemed settled, something twisted the path. Now, it was happening again, not between them directly, but between their children. And that made it worse. Hope Logan, Brooke's daughter, had once again drifted into dangerous emotional territory. Her entanglement with Thomas Forrester had reignited. And though she claimed she was in control, that she knew what she was doing, Brooke wasn't convinced. She'd seen this dance before. It never ended well. Not for Hope, not for Thomas, and certainly not for the rest of the family caught in the crossfire. You need to choose, Hope, Brooke said one night, eyes sharp, voice quiet but firm. You can't keep going back and forth. Either you walk away for good or you accept who he is. All of it, and brace for the fallout. Hope bristled. You mean like you did with Ridge? Like you chose him over and over and expected the rest of the world to adjust? The words cut deeper than they should have, because they weren't entirely wrong. But Brooke didn't flinch. Don't turn this around on me, she said. This isn't about my past. It's about your future. But that was the problem. It was always about the past. The Logan and Forrester families had been entangled for decades. Romantically, professionally, genetically. Hope and Thomas were just the latest expression of that legacy. And every time Brooke tried to protect her daughter, every time she urged her to let go of Thomas, Ridge heard something else entirely. He heard judgment. He heard disapproval. He heard the unspoken accusation that his son was broken, irredeemable, dangerous. And that meant Brooke didn't truly accept his side of the family. She said she did. She claimed to. But her actions, especially toward Thomas, told a different story. Ridge tried to rise above it. He told himself Brooke was just being a mother. That her warnings weren't about loyalty or betrayal but about love. But the longer it went on, the harder it became to ignore the pattern. Every time Brooke pushed Hope away from Thomas, every time she called him obsessive or manipulative, every time she tried to drive a wedge, the old cracks between her and Ridge began to reappear. They'd sealed them so many times before. Through heartbreak, through loss, through separations, affairs, even weddings to other people. But the damage was cumulative. And now, with the house divided again, with Eric's health declining, with RJ caught in the middle, and with Thomas working late nights beside Hope at Forrester Creations, creating designs and sharing smiles that were increasingly hard to explain away. The pressure mounted. Then came the slip. A moment between Thomas and Hope that wasn't quite secret and wasn't quite public. A hand held a beat too long. A glance exchanged behind closed doors. A late-night meeting that ended with lips barely parting before they separated. It was enough. Enough to feed the gossip. Enough to light the match. Steffi heard about it first, and within days it was all over the office. Ridge confronted Thomas, but his son stood his ground. I'm not hiding, he said. Hope knows who I am. She's not running. Maybe you should trust her judgment. Ridge clenched his jaw. You've done damage, Thomas. Real damage. And if she's confused, that's on you. But the confrontation didn't end there. Brooke found out. And when she did, she went straight to Ridge. This is why I'm scared, she said. It's starting again. The obsession. The seduction. She thinks she can handle it, but she can't. You've seen what Thomas is capable of when he's fixated. Ridge snapped. He's not the same man he was 5 years ago. You always say you believe in second chances, unless it's my son who needs one. Brooke recoiled. I believe in change. But I believe in patterns too. And this one always ends the same way. And that was it. The loop had begun again. The same arguments. The same fears. The same fractures. Ridge would defend Thomas. Brooke would defend Hope. And both would see betrayal in the other's eyes. The peace they'd fought so hard for. The promises they'd made on the beach. In the bedroom. In front of their families. Suddenly seemed fragile, like glass under pressure. Steffi, watching from the sidelines, pulled back further. She tried to be neutral, tried to keep the business afloat while the family spiraled, but even she couldn't deny what was happening. Finn warned her not to get involved, but how could she not? Her father's marriage was unraveling, again. Because of Thomas, again. Because of Brooke, again. It was like deja vu with sharper teeth. RJ tried to play mediator, but his voice didn't carry the weight needed to hold the family together. Even Zende, once distant from the inner Forrester conflicts, started to feel the tremors. Everyone knew the foundation was shaking. And when Eric's health crisis hit a boiling point, when the patriarch of the family fell ill, and his legacy began to hang in the balance, the stress only intensified. In the middle of it all, Ridge tried to hold on. To Brooke, to Thomas, to his sense that maybe, just maybe, love could be enough. But the nights grew colder. The silences longer. Brooke stopped finishing her sentences. Ridge started spending more time at the office. The physical distance mirrored the emotional one. And both of them knew it. Still, neither would walk away. Not yet. Not while the embers still glowed. Not while there was something left to save. But it wouldn't be enough just to want it. Not this time. Not with Hope inching closer to Thomas. Not with Brooke unable to hide her disapproval. Not with Ridge hearing criticism where she claimed there was only caution. The final blow came during a family dinner, meant to be a reconciliation. Hope and Thomas arrived together. Not as a couple, not officially, but their body language said everything. Steffi noticed first. Brooke noticed second. Ridge noticed last, and when he did, his face darkened. Brooke whispered, "This is what I was afraid of." Ridge turned to her, voice low but sharp. "And what exactly are you going to do? Tell your daughter to choose again? How many times does she have to pick before it's the right answer for you?" The table froze. The tension boiled over. Words were exchanged, heated, bitter, soaked in old wounds. Hope fled. Thomas followed. And Ridge and Brooke were left staring at the wreckage. Again. Later that night, alone in the living room, Ridge poured himself a drink and stared at the fire. Brooke stood behind him, arms crossed, lips tight. "I love you," she said. "I've always loved you. But I'm tired of pretending these things don't matter." Ridge didn't turn. "They matter," he said. "But so does believing people can grow. Thomas isn't perfect, but neither was I. You gave me another chance. Why can't he have one too?" Brooke's voice cracked. "Because I don't want Hope to have to survive love the way I did." Silence. And then, just like that, the silence swallowed the room. Ridge finally turned. "Then maybe we're not talking about Hope and Thomas anymore." They stood there. Two people bound by history, by children, by decades of passion and pain. But maybe not the same future anymore. The bridge between them held. For now. But under their feet, it trembled. And somewhere inside them both, the fear grew, that destiny might not be a promise. It might be a curse.